Okay. I'd like to come back onto that innovation journey that you've had. And you've had a varied career before, obviously ended up at the World Food Programme and looking after 680 offices across 125 countries with 25 staff that are obviously all over the place as well reporting. So, I'd really like to understand what's the sort of biggest lesson that you've learned as you've started and continuing on this transformation journey that you have with the World Food Programme.
I think, and if I may, I will move this journey timeline a little bit back,
Yeah.
not just at the World Food Program, but take it a little few years back. Because when I was at the IMF, I was in IMF for some few years in DC, for a while, and the IMF is big on technology, is big on digitalization and all that, and we went through some transformation in that time frame as well. And part of my role at the IMF was leading the system, FM technology and research, and making sure that the FM division have the necessary tools and are aware of what the emerging technological trends are in the industry. So it was a very exciting time
Yeah.
going through that process, making sure that you are aware of what the latest prop tech idea and trend is, and making sure that you be able to bring that idea and sell it in a way that your management will be able to get on board and just buy that and give you the leeway to be able to bring those innovation ideas into the workplace. So I will use that example. And I think when we're going through that journey, there was a time that we decided to relook at all our FM systems that we were using. Data is a big thing for IMF because the nature of the work they do is mostly economists, and they need
Yeah.
data to provide that capacity for the country. So data is a big thing. So we rely on data on a day-to-day basis. So we have a lot of tools, a lot of systems that we use in managing our facilities. So deciding that we are changing all those systems and coming back to cloud solutions, FM as a service, and software as a service. Going through that, it was a very exciting period. We went through that process a couple of years, and the biggest lesson that I learned throughout all that was being able to collaborate effectively with other divisions outside of facilities, outside of the divisions that you interact with on a day-to-day basis. Because usually we interact with IT and procurement most of the time, in our day-to-day operations when it comes to transformation. But the biggest lesson I learned was being able to speak to the economists and understand what they need and what their expectations are of us when they come into the building. I realized that was really critical, because it forces you to think a little bit beyond yourself and beyond as a facilities professional, and think, oh, you know how the building is supposed to run, you know what building systems or automation systems that you need in the building. But the people that you are putting that in place for, they don't see that as a priority.
Yeah.
So talking to the people and trying to find out what is their understanding of transformation, and what are those digitalization tools that they need, and how can you support that. That was the biggest lesson for me. And I did not do that initially because I was just looking at that tunnel vision, but I had a team that I was working with, and one of the guys from IT, he brought that idea and was like, I think we are looking at this all wrong. Why don't we include a couple more people from outside of these three units and get some additional ideas? And we got some really good ideas. We went through all this design thinking process, and which made us realize that the tools that we would have ideally chosen for the organization would not have been the best, and just sometimes including the stakeholders in that decision making, not restricting yourself and thinking they do not know your job and they have nothing to contribute. I think for me, that's the biggest lesson. Just listen to different perspective, listen to other ideas, and it may open your mind to a different way that you look at your work, a different way that you look at the task that you have at hand, and it makes the job easier. That's pretty
Yeah,
much it.
it does. And because, I mean, perhaps a relatively quick answer just to follow on from that. You talked about collaboration and communication being key. And I was about to ask you, how did you foster that collaboration and communication across different job roles and people? You mentioned design thinking. So was that the main way that you organize it, with a design working workshop across many different groups, or how did it foster itself, that communication?
That was key. That was the main platform that we used. We did I remember it was a couple of workshops that just using design thinking processes. That was the main way. And then we also had a collaborative platform. So I think we're using Slack at that point, to be able to have that workspace that people just throw ideas, because you know that sometimes when you move away from the workshop, some ideas come to you later in your
Yeah.
day-to-day life. So we have that space that kind of like a brain dump that people will throw ideas when they think of anything. And we have a timeline that people throw those ideas into kind of a pool. And then we take that, and then I use that to help in formulating the scope and the criteria and the requirements that I need to start that transformation plan. Yeah.
That's really really useful to know, and I think design thinking is one of the most underappreciated forms of an innovation strategy out there at the moment, and I think it's something that the real estate industry will really develop over time. So thanks for bringing that up.